We have former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV joining us live here in the studio. Good morning, Senator. Thanks for joining us.
Angela. Good morning, Jacob.
Thank you for joining us, Senator. Of course, nakita natin po yung last report. I'd like to ask you about that. No, you filed a supplemental affidavit, no, and you said you uncovered po a new evidence based sa QuadComm hearing. Ano po itong ebidensya, Senator?
Actually, sinubmit lang namin yung affidavit ni Mr. Mark Taguba who pointed to Pulong Duterte as the one controlling the importations of contraband, including illegal drugs doon sa customs ng panahon nila. And also Mr. Jimmy Guban who pointed that at Pulong Duterte rin as the kingpin ng mga illegal shipments kasama ng illegal drugs sa customs.
But aside from the testimonies, meron po ba tayong mga corroborative documentary evidences that will, support these allegations?
Yes. I submitted the whole evidence that was used by the prosecution to convict Mr. Mark Taguba doon sa same drug shipment case. Kumaga, it's already established. Ngayon siya, tinuro lang niya yung mastermind. So, dalawang nagturo kay Pulong Duterte as the mastermind. Kaya, eto na to. This is an open and shut case. Kaya I'm hoping masimula na yung preliminary investigation ng DOJ.
And how confident are you, Senator, na positive ang magiging outcome? Kasi sabi po, of course, no, ng kabilang kampo po, nag-fishing daw kayo.
The whole world saw for themselves kung ano yung mga sinabi dun sa QuadComm. Hindi to gawa-gawa lang. At nakita nyo naman, even yung demeanor nila, the totality of the circumstances and evidence would point to the Duterte family as the ultimate narco-politicians dito. They monopolized the drug trade. Yung war on drugs nila was just a ploy, was a ruse, to divert the attention ng taong bayan dun sa kanilang ultimate objective, which was to establish and monopolize yung sarili nilang cartel.
But do you think there's an impact, itong pag-file niyo po ng mga cases na to, may impact ito dun sa investigation, pending investigation ng ICC?
No, separate siya. Kasi si Pulong is different and separate from the ICC case kay Mr. Duterte.
Yeah, right. But since we're talking about ICC, kamusta na po yun? Kasi we've heard some reports and yung mga from your past interviews last year, sabi niyo before SONA and then na-move. Kailan na po ba talaga pupunta yung ICC?
Okay, ganito. Last year, the information we got was second quarter of 2024. However, because of the statements of the Marcos administration that they will not cooperate, and because of that, inelevate nung ICC yung threshold for evidence. Dati, probable cause lang, they will file it, and therefore, pag may probable cause, mag-i-issue ng warrant.
Yes.
Kaso, since hindi na sila makakakuha ng further evidence, since hindi na nga mag-cooperate, they raised it to certainty of conviction. So, because of that, hindi muna nila final yung application for warrant. So they spent the good part of the last 9 months gathering additional evidence para at certainty of conviction, para whether the Philippine government cooperates or not, they would have enough to convict Mr. Duterte. And I think lagpas na ron. And at this point, kailangan na lang natin mag-antay. It will come sooner than we expect.
I remember, Senator, yung hearing, very interesting hearing ng QuadComm, yung nagalit sa'yo si former President. He said initially, sige, ako mismo pupunta doon, basta makasampal daw siya sa inyo. Pero nag-iba po ang statement bigla. Given na iba-iba po ang pronouncements na, now do we see probably yung warrant na ito idadaan na lang sa Interpol?
Yes, but ano ko lang, iba yung reason niya kung bakit niya sinabi na sasampalin daw niya ako.
Yes.
It's the waiver ng bank account.
Ay, oo.
So, noong una, nagbo-volunteer siya na he will sign the waiver. Nung challenge siya nung chairman ng QuadComm, kung pwede niya na ba pirmahan right there and there, at ipe-prepare na yung waiver, suddenly, he created a scene to divert the attention. Again, dun sila magaling mag-deceive. So, kailangan niyang gumawa ng eksena para hindi siya maobligang pumirma. But then we kept on challenging him to sign it, pero ultimately hindi. Ngayon, itong sa ICC naman, kasi si Duterte, ano siya ang tawag dyan fake news factory, no? Yung pathological liar siya. And he uses that skill for his convenience. 1 out of 10, magsasabi siya ng totoo if it would be convenient. Pero 9 out of 10, he will just lie para makover yung kanyang ultimate agenda. So in this case, sabi niya pupunta siya ng ICC. Nung nape-press na siya, hindi talaga. So it's going to go through the Interpol.
Yes.
Just to answer your question. Kasi iyan yung mechanism na still in place. We have an international agreement with the Interpol, and the Interpol has a cooperation agreement with the ICC. So valid yung agreement natin with Interpol, kaya pagkas doon pinadaan, wala sila doon.
But what do you think about yung naiiba ngayon yung direksyon ng PBBM administration pagdating sa usapin ng ICC? Before na nag-break up yung unit team, ay talagang very stern doon sa hindi po pwedeng makialam ang ICC dito. Pero ngayon medyo parang they're opening up about it, although may mga konting mga statements pa rin sa kanila na medyo we'll do our own case here, we'll investigate, etc. But what do you think about it?
It's expected. Kasi ang pinakang proteksyon na lang ni Duterte was that unity with the administration. Pero nung nag-break away siya and when he tried to actually oust President Marcos, it's just common sense, no? Bakit ka pa poproteksyonan? So, it's very much expected yung shift from definitely will not cooperate to now we will turn him over to the Interpol.
Let's move on to another issue altogether, Senator. And we all know you as somebody who's very calculated in all your movements in the past decade or so. And you have decided to run for mayor of Caloocan. And so, pag may ganitong pronouncement ka na ikinagulat ng marami kasi we expected baka mag-party list si Senator because national scale. But you decided to run for mayor sa Caloocan. That means may nakita po siguro kayong dapat baguhin sa Caloocan. Ano po itong nakita nyo, Senator?
Ganito yan, I agree. I was exposed to the national political scene. So doon ako nakatuon, yung mga national policies, diyan tayo nakatutok. Pero nung last year when I was invited to explore running for mayor, I went around Caloocan City and I consulted different people there. Nakita namin, grabe ang situation sa Caloocan. And even though I was born and raised in Caloocan, but after I graduated from PMA, hindi ko na nakikita yung mga ins and outs doon. So I saw for myself, ang grabe ang poverty dyan. I think the poorest people in the Philippines live in Caloocan. Yung facilities niya, yung infrastructure niya, very backward. Then, grabe ang corruption. And right now, number 1 na rin sa criminality ang Caloocan. So, sad to say, it's becoming the worst city in Metro Manila, at least.
Pero we all know, Senator, the Caloocan was governed by the Malapitan family for the longest time. So would you say napabayaan ito for the longest period?
Definitely, no. Wala talagang governance. Ang inaatupag lang ng mga nakaupo is kung saan kukuha ng pagkakakitaan, Sad to say, kasi otherwise dapat nakikita mo yung tao And you should feel for them. You should be able to address yung basic needs nila. Kaya talagang napabayaan ang
you mentioned ang tinitignan nila kung saan sila pwedeng kumita.
Yes.
No, that's your word. Do you have a basis on that?
Marami, no? And you can see it. Makikita mo lang doon sa basura, no? Hindi nakokolekta. once every 2 weeks ang collection. Pero, pag titignan mo dun sa kontrata, ano to? One of the highest garbage contracts in the country. Tapos, ganon. So, you can just put 2 and 2 together. Pero, at the proper time, maungkat lahat yan. In fact, may mga graft cases itong pamilya na ito. And that's for everybody to see.
And of course, Senator, ang tanong ng marami, di ba? You've been campaigning for a few weeks, a few months now. Umiikot po kayo. Based sa mga narinig nyo po sa mga constituents ng Caloocan, ano po ang kailangan nila? Kumbaga, kung manalo kayong mayor, ano po unang gagawin nyo na babaguhin nyo? Just at least maibsan po yung sinasabi nyo kahirapan.
Marami, no? Kailangan nila ng trabaho. Kailangan nila ng suporta yung mga marginalized sectors like the senior citizens, PWDs. Ang dami nila doon. Kailangan nila ng decent healthcare. Yung mga taga-Caloocan, pag magpapa-hospital, pupunta sila ng Manila o Quezon City. Kasi they don't have any decent healthcare system doon. So, very basic ang problema ng Caloocan. And we need to address those concerns.
Pero let's talk about surveys. No? Kasi last year, we've seen a lot of surveys or some surveys, medyo behind po talaga kayo nag-umpisa. And then we've seen some videos sa social media. I don't know kung saan nanggagaling yun, pero pinapakita po nila doon na hindi po pinupuntahan daw ng tao yung mga areas that you go to para mag-campaign. Kumbaga parang pag tinanong mo on the bat yung mga tao doon, sino iboboto nyo, malapitan pa rin daw yung sinasabi nila.
Okay. I started out at 8%. No? And that's expected kasi lahat ng pangalan ng malapitan nakapintura sa mga pader. No? So, nandoon yung subliminal effect nun. But once we got around, started consulting people, the race has tightened. A few points, na lang ako, below. If may ibang surveys na, internal surveys to na tabla na, and some even lamang ako by a few points. But dun sa aming own internal survey, which we conducted last January, I'm just a few points behind. At ganun yung reflection. Ngayon yung mga sinasabi nyo, mga nakikita nyo sa social media, propaganda nila yon. Of course, that's what they will say, but we have a lot na videos to show na talagang baliktad. No? In fact, pag umikot itong mayor, si Along Malapitan, wala ngang lalapit ang magpapapicture sa kanya. They probably do not know him kasi hindi naman ito nakikita, hindi talaga umiikot. So, yan yung problema nila. No? They can just capitalize on propaganda dahil because of the money that they have. But the real picture on the ground is very much different.
Okay, siguro we'd like to pivot a little and ask you about pressing issues ngayon sa bansa. No?
We cannot ask you
Yes, of course.
about it.
Being a former senator po, you know what's happening po sa impeachment. Yung na-transmit nila, sinabi ni SP Chis Escudero na they will take it up by June, I think, third week, no? Ano po ang interpretation niyo dito? Kasi the word forthwith ang pinagdidebatihan nila dito.
Maliwanag yon. Pag forthwith, ibig sabihin nun, right away or immediately. Kung mga precedents lang ang pinag-uusapan natin nung corona impeachment, the day after na na-transmit sa Senate yung articles of impeachment, nag-constitute kami as an impeachment court. Iba yung legislative calendar sa impeachment calendar. Walang nakalagay doon sa provision sa Constitution na kailangan during session. Because iwalay nga. Pag titignan nyo yung provision sa impeachment, nandito siya sa Article 11, I think, or hindi siya sa Article 6 sa legislature. Ibig sabihin, yung impeachment is a separate institution altogether. So, kaya nga nagro-robe pa eh.
Yes.
To symbolize na you're not just regular senators, you are senator judges. Meaning, iba yung identity nyo. You're wearing a different hat. So, immediately, kahit walang session, kunyari, magpunta sila sa Senate ngayon, mag-agree sila, let's take an oath, mangyayari yon. But You see, the Senate is the domain of the senators. Lahat ng nangyayari dyan is based on the rule of the majority.
Yes.
Pag nag-decide sila na we will do this today, they can do this today. If they decide to do this on June 2, they can do that.
Oo. Pero why do you think saan nanggagaling si Senator Chis Escudero? Because kung si Senator Coco Pimentel yung tatanungin, gusto niya magtawag na ng caucus, tas other legal experts like former Senator Franklin Drilon,
Yes,
sinasabi niya pwede naman eh. Diba? Once na na-receive nyo na yung complaint, pwede na natin simulan, etc. Pero bakit si Senator Chis Escudero, iba yung pananaw niya?
Dahil ganun yung pulso ng mga majority. Remember, very small ang margin nung pagka-Senate President ni Senator Chis. If any block would shift to the other block, tanggal sa kagad siya. So yan yung napulsuhan niya. That's my reading on that. He's treading on very thin ice. Kaya very careful siya. Meron lang convenient alibi na recess ngayon, campaign recess, but he knows it. Kung iba ang set of circumstances, he would have convened it right away. And alam nyo, si Senator Chis, Senate President Chis, magaling yan sa kumaga legal procedures. Ano? I can imagine kung presiding officer siya, he would have displayed yung kanyang legal prowess, mapakita na niya sa taong bayan. And he would want that. Kaso, the circumstances do not favor such a scenario for him.
May kinalaman po ba dito, Senator, yung election? Kasi takot daw yung ibang Senator judges na may backlash if they vote in favor of impeachment.
Yeah, for sure. Pero kasi, pagka sinimulan mo yung impeachment trial, lalagpasan nyo naman yung election.
Yeah.
You can conduct the verdict can happen after the election, so hindi ka tatamaan. You will just attend there. In fact, favorable pa to sa mga
visibility,
Makikita sila sa
no?
TV,
Visibility.
You can just keep your cards close to your chest, di ka magpakita ng but doon ka. They can do that. Ano lang ito? I think there is a block there na pwedeng mag-shift sa kabila and mawawala sa pwesto.
So,
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
Oo. So parang mas meron dun na baka kasi magalaw yung kanyang pagiging Senate President. Ganun ba? Ganun ba?
and ano lang yun, speculation lang yun.
Yes.
And there is also this practical reason na karamihan ng mga senador ngayon ay out of the country. Nakaschedule na yan. May International Parliamentary Union, may mga official businesses elsewhere. So, for practical reasons, hindi. Pero yung caucus na sinasabi ni Senator Coco Pimentel, pwede naman gawin yan online eh. Mag-caucus sila na doon, o sige, let's meet when all these private or official businesses are done.
Yes,
They can meet ng March.
Pero yung sinasabi nilang yung isa pang issue na yung carry over from 19th Congress, pag hindi natapos i-carry over na sa 20th Congress, yung iba sabi okay yun, yung iba sabi hindi.
I think paliwanag yun na diretso yun. Kasi itong impeachment, pag titignan nyo sa Constitution, walang nagsasabi dyan na hihinto yan pag every end ng Congress. Walang ganon. Pag walang ganon, hindi ka pwede mag-invento na merong ganon. It's just like a trial, let's say sa Sandigan Bayan. Pag may trial ka doon at nag-retire yung dalawang justices, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung trial. Pag may pumalit doon, sila yung magbabackread, you don't reset. Yun.
Ngayon kasi, nakikita natin ngayon, nakafocus yung campaign between the Duterte side faction at saka of course yung admin, BBM admin. Silang dalawa yung nag-aaway. I was wondering, being the opposition before, nasaan ngayon sa picture na ito ang true opposition?
Ang true opposition is si Senator Risa Hontiveros. Siya yung nandoon and she is playing that part. Policy-wise, nagpo-provide dyan ng checks and balances with the administration. So, she is the voice. Yun sa mga tumatahimik, you cannot classify them as opposition anymore. Kasi pagka opposition ka, kailangan may ino-oppose ka.
So are you saying, let's say for example, kasi merong ako nakitang parang reaction mo doon kay Senator Bam Aquino. Sinasabi kasi ni Senator Bam Aquino na hindi daw ganun ka-importante yung impeachment complaint at hindi daw yun, kumbaga parang he went to Nueva Ecija, hindi daw yun yung pulso ng taong bayan, ibang problema. And you reacted on that. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, I needed to react that way kasi grabe yung sakripisyo namin dito to make the Dutertes accountable. Tapos, i-trivialize na gano'n. I need to call him out. Nagkasama kami nung panahon ni Duterte sa minority, pero apparently, he doesn't feel that way anymore. Baka mas malapit siya sa mga Dutertes at this point. Kaya nagpapauna siya about what he really feels. Kasi if he feels the same way as before, as we do, he wouldn't have said that.
So you're saying, Senator, based sa nakikita natin landscape, well, we should call it the yellows or yung mga pinklawan are veering now towards the Duterte side?
No, not everyone.
Si ano po, VP Lenny, former VP Lenny.
Well, you'll have to ask her that. Kaya nga kinall out ko rin siya when
Yes.
she invited si Sara Duterte sa bahay niya. No? They tried to come up with some excuses, but kita nyo how does it look now? Diba? That didn't age well. So, it was just a forewarning. Ngayon, even though magkakasama kami before, pero when they get in the way of putting or making the Dutertes accountable, I will have to call them out. Ganun naman tayo.
Oo. Yun nga po, sabi niyo, yung mga sakripisyo ninyo para nga mapakita sa tao kung ano talaga yung tunay na kulay ng mga Duterte. You've filed several cases, you've supported ICC investigation. Saan ba talaga nag-ugat? Kasi a lot of people are asking, bakit galit na galit ka? You're so focused on Duterte. Di ba saan ba nag-ugat yun?
Ganito po, no? Kung makikita nyo how we operate, mission. It's about the mission. Dati si GMA was the mission.
Yes.
And eventually, na-accomplish yung mission na yun at terrible cost or expense sa amin. But still, nangyari yun. So, we moved on. Ngayon, si Duterte, giniba niya yung bansa. Dami niyang pinatay ng mga Pilipino. And that mission is still on. Hindi pwedeng isang tabi to. If we will not do this, if somebody is willing to take up the cudgels to make them accountable, we would gladly step back. Pero habang wala pa or hindi pa tapos yung laban, tutuloy-tuloy namin yan. And we feel na malapit na tumatapos. So we get this thing done, we have accomplished the mission, we now move on to something else.
Speaking of former President Duterte, I think you heard most likely a statement niya about killing 15 senators. And of course, may pronouncement na joke lang daw. And sanay na po tayo, ganun po ang pronouncement nila panahon ng administrasyon na joke lahat ng sinasabi. Ano po ang sa tingin nyo dito? May sector nagsasabi, itigil na natin itong joke dahil hindi na daw healthy ito. Anong opinion nyo?
Ganun yon, mga pauna yon. Diba? So, whether that thing happens or not, meron siyang deniability. But we saw that nung panahon nung administration niya, thousands died. That was not a joke. Diba? And he was very clear about that. Kaya hindi pwede yon. Kaya tama yung kinasuhan siya ni General Torre na paliwanag mo na lang yan sa korte kung joke yan o hindi. But you don't joke about those things. Diba? Sa airport niya, yung mga bomb jokes.
Yes.
Hindi pwede. Ganito lang yon.
With what's happening with VP Sara Duterte now, yung impeachment complaint against her, are you confident na, kumbaga, pag ito ay naipasok na sa impeachment court, may impeach siya?
Yes, I am confident because solid yung evidence sa kanya. Pag lumabas lang yung bank accounts, makita nila yung sinasabi namin noon pa na may dividends, may proceeds from the drug trade while she was mayor. Lalabas yon. Makikita ng tao yon, bibitawan na siya. At pag binitawan siya ng tao, bibitawan na siya ng mga politiko kasi magiging untenable eh. pag
Yes.
dinefend.
Pero ang taas pa rin ng ano niya ngayon. I mean, bumaba, pero mataas pa din yung kanyang rating.
Actually, ano sila, they're picking up. Their numbers are picking up dahil dun sa kanilang troll factory. Nag-expand sila ulit ng social media machinery nila. At ganon, they deceive people. That's how, yun yung sikreto nila.
You mentioned the word kanina, yung fake news factory. Meron isang very controversial statement. I'd like to ask you about this.
Yeah.
Si Congressman Marcoleta about the West Philippine Sea na tas nagkabanggaan pa sila ni Commodore J. Tariela. Ano po ang take nyo dito?
Grabe yun. It shows, reflective yon dun sa kanilang saloobin, yung kanilang biases and motivations. Pare-parehas yung mga Duterte camp, they've been defending the aggressions of China, yung intrusion sila sa ating West Philippine Sea. Even nung panahon ni Duterte, he actually directed the AFP to stop conducting EEZ patrols dun sa West Philippine Sea. Ganon yon, to give the Chinese the whole place, basically binigay nila. Kaya yan yon. Yan sila Marcoleta, mga acolytes yan ng mga Dutertes. Ibig sabihin, we have a pro-China motivation dito sa kampo nila.
Pero the way that the BBM administration is going through this, kumbaga yung mga ginagawa nila para sa West Philippine Sea, or do you agree on that?
Yes, kung titignan nyo, practically the same sila ng foreign policy position as regards the West Philippine Sea dun sa Pinoy administration. So, they have turned away from the pro-China stance, and they have realigned dun sa traditional security allies natin.
Ito, before we let you go, kasi wala na po tayong oras, I want to know also your insight dun sa nangyayari. Of course, ang sabi nila si Senator Amy Marcos ay kumbaga parang torn between two lovers, di ba? Hindi alam, para po sa inyo, ano po ba dapat yung ginagawa niya? Dapat ba pumanig na lang siya ngayon sa kapatid niya, or still continue the friendship with the Dutertes?
Dapat siyempre, kung before na hindi pa nagkakahiwalay, sige, pwede kang mag-straddle between the two camps. Pero nung nagkahiwalay na, dapat doon siya sa kapatid niya. Kasi, yun parang betrayal yon. And nakikita nyo, hindi rin naman siya in-embrace ng mga Duterte sa Davao. Kaya I think it's a miscalculation on the part of Senator Amy na mamangkasa sa dalawang ilog at this point. Siguro iniisip niya she could easily surpass the 2025 elections sa 2028. That partnership would have been convenient. Kaso ngayon at risk yung 2025 niya.
Yeah. And lastly po, you said mission accomplished kayo kay PGMA, ngayon kay former President Duterte. You want to see justice by him going to the ICC process.
Yeah.
Would you say pag nangyari po yun, tapos na, or habulin niyo po lahat ng mga nasa Duterte na sa tingin niyo po ay dapat kasuhan?
Lahat ng pwedeng habulin. So, ang merong kaso ngayon, si Duterte, si Digong, si Sara Duterte, at si Pulong. So, yun. Ngayon, eventually, kung may madidiscover na plinander itong si Baste, then he would be answerable as well.
Alright.
Mission accomplished na si Senator.
It's great to have you
Yes.
po here, and hopefully we can still invite you and talk more about certain issues. But for the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, former Senator and Caloocan mayoral candidate Antonio Trillanes IV. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator.
Maraming salamat sa inyo.